I won't let go of a lot of things. That's where I'm trying. What I'm trying to do right now is learn how to let go.
What are you trying to let go?
I'm just trying to let go of hurt. I'm trying to let go of pain from the past.
What is the source of the
Present,
hurt?
the hurt is from being abused, and I'm talking about from relationships. The hurt from me making poor decisions.
What is a
Like I
poor
said, I
decision?
don't poor decisions. I marry a guy that's incarcerated.
But why does that reflect on you? And why are you
It
taking
reflects on me because I
responsibility for
feel
that?
I take responsibility because I'm the one that said I do, but I take responsibility because I wasn't ready. And instead of being honest with myself and honest with them, I did it and I went. And
But
now here
people
it is.
take care of, people try to get their needs met in many ways. And do you not see it as a way that you
I
were
see
trying
it
to get
as
your
me
needs
trying to
met?
get my need met, but I felt like I
And
went about it
why do you
wrong
persecute yourself for that?
because I went about it wrong. I don't. I
What is
don't.
wrong?
I don't
Remember,
really.
there's no right or wrong. If we
Well,
if you were
I
to
went about
rephrase
it.
that,
I went about it the left. Like I don't like.
there is
I think that
you're trying to use the word
my
now the
intuition.
wordplay.
Yeah, I gotta use the left. Still wrong, but
No.
no. I should have listened to my intuition. My intuition told me it was not the right decision to do.
And we all go
And
against our
I decided to
intuition.
go against the grain because I was trying to get my needs met. And
Okay.
I I I don't I haven't
You
got this. I
experienced something.
basically
You
just threw another bag of shit on me. But this one I accepted it because it's to death do us apart, sickness and hell, virtual horror. We took vows, and I feel like now I'm not saying I'm stuck because it's just a piece of paper that can get ripped up, and I could sign another one and get my life back. But I just felt like I shouldn't have to drag them through my mess, and that's where I feel I get hurt at because I tried.
what would be a more loving way that you would frame your marriage and the decision to get married when you weren't ready? We started with
I
getting your needs met,
I
but
feel
how
like
do
maybe
we
it's different because he's gone and he's not here. So that's I'm alone. So I'm dealing with my problems by myself, and then I gotta deal with his problems while he's dealing with
why do you have to deal with his problems?
not like literally dealing, but we communicate. Communication is key
Okay.
in relationships, any relationship.
Yes.
Now it don't have to be a
Yes.
marriage. So
That is
we,
true.
with our communication, when we do have conversations, when we do converse or talk, you tell me what he's going through behind bars. I'm telling him what I'm going through in the real world, and
Okay.
we bump heads, and then I distance myself because when I get to a certain stance, I put up a wall. I block everybody out that trying to reach in.
Do
And
you know why you guys are bumping heads?
I feel like we're bumping heads because both of our end not doing what we're supposed to do as a husband and wife. I feel like
Well, that's
not
something you cannot
listening.
change.
Yeah, I feel like he's not listening because he feel like I feel he feel that his bag of shit is more important than mine.
Exactly. And you've taught
And
him
I
to
feel like my
believe
bag of
that,
shit is more important than his. Like you live rent free, you eat good. You don't
right,
have to buy food. You don't have to do anything. You get
right.
everything provided to you. I'm out here. I have to get up in the morning and go to work. I have to make sure that I clock in or budget my money, pay my car insurance, pay my rent, lights, gas, cell phone bill. I gotta make sure my kids have everything they need. I gotta buy food. I gotta get toiletries. Everything, birthdays,
So, do you
Christmas,
know why I
everything.
asked you that question? Because what I'm hearing is that the reason why you guys are butting heads is because both of you guys are not getting your needs met when you're talking to each other.
We
He's not
not.
feeling heard and he feels as if he's not being appreciated because being incarcerated is dehumanizing and vicious and
Yeah,
debilitating, and you feel like you're not being heard because you are shouldering all of the responsibilities of your life and everybody else's life all by yourself, and nobody's giving you the validation that you need and the appreciation that you would like to hear by going through all that all by yourself. Does that sound accurate?
yeah, and plus, but for me to have a husband, I'd rather for him to be home so he can help out with all this stuff and instead of being in there. But that's a decision I made because I knew where he was before I said I do. That wasn't going to change within the time frame that we were married, and I knew we had more time to go. And I made that decision in a happy state of mind that I was in. And now that I went back into,
Based on a feeling. Because
yeah,
if I'm
I was on a
hearing this
natural
right,
high at that time. That's what I consider it, a natural high at that time.
yes,
So everything was, yes. I felt like I was at peace. I felt like, the past was the past, and then I said I do. Then everything just hit me. Then I have to. I feel like he doesn't understand a lot that goes on. Like he doesn't understand depression. He never thought it was a real thing. I googled it, I printed it out, I highlighted all my symptoms, showed him documentation, and I sent it to him. Because one thing I don't, like I said, I feel like I always have to prove myself to people. Like I'm not gonna lie
right.
about something, or I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna do that. And I told him
So
when
you
I feel like
over
I always have to.
validate yourself.
Yeah, I always, and I told
Yes,
him when I feel like ask for you to be my husband, ask me to always have to prove something to you. Something went wrong because you
absolutely.
married me based on trust. Where's the trust now that we both? I just feel like once we tied the knot, everything went left.
You married him while he was already incarcerated?
Incarcerated. I knew him since I was 13.
Okay.
We grew up together.
Okay.
We don't have
And
any children together. He
okay.
was an ex boyfriend of mine. When we rekindled back in 2014, I want to say it was. Then he reminded me what made me love him so much and wanted to marry him when we were younger. Protective. He was. My mom was going through a bad phase in her life at the time, and I was the babysitter. You know,
Right.
and I was always home, and sometimes it might not be no food in the house. He would go to the top that was the grocery store that's around the corner from us and ask the older ladies, "Do you want me to can I carry your bags for you? Can I carry your bags for
Oh,
you?"
bless
And they
him.
used to give him $1, $5, whatever. And he started taking my little brothers with him, and they used to do that. And what they did was they take whatever they made, they'll go buy food, and they'll bring it to the house and I cook.
So just
Or
imagine, like he fulfilled all of those basic needs that you
yeah,
had as a child. You could not help, and not only that, but because you were not aware of what you were entitled to as a human being, which was safety, having your needs met and advocacy and freedom. Since he fulfilled the basic needs, that's called trauma bonding. And so, of course, if you didn't know what safety and advocacy and freedom and empowerment was, and he's taking care of those basic needs, why wouldn't you fall in love with him? I want like to run
right,
this down for you so you can't blame yourself for why you chose him. I'm that happened to me. Like I'm a sucker for anybody who does something for me, like anything, because I was the one that was always doing for other people. So I felt
right,
like if somebody did something for me in the kind of energy that I was doing for others with all of my heart, they were doing something for me with all of their heart. And that's something that fulfilled that childhood wish of mine that somebody would do something for me. And so just imagine you are what I call blaming yourself for not being able to see when you grew up blind. Does that make sense? That's
it
what you're
does.
doing to yourself on a regular basis, is blaming yourself for not being able to see when you grew up blind. And you do this regularly.
All
And
the time.
I wish for you I wish for you to get present in that moment where you are blaming yourself for something, shaming yourself for something, or feeling guilty about something that is not yours to bear. That's not meant for you. at all. The minute that narrative goes, oh, well, I should have known better. No, you didn't know better. What were you supposed to, what standard did you have to measure anything against? All
Right.
you knew that if somebody was taking care of those basic needs, that was love, because you certainly weren't getting it at home. You have to understand that every decision that you made is very natural and expected. Just like lack of advocacy. If you have anger issues, why wouldn't you have why wouldn't you have them if you were not taught how to advocate for yourself? Rage, you're suffering from lack of advocacy. It's not about I have a problem with anger. No, you're suffering. Just like how they love to, paint certain drug abuse, and some it's criminal in some demographics, and then it's a health issue in others. No, it's a health issue everywhere. Just like
Right.
anger and rage. That's a lack of, you're suffering. It's not a problem. That's what I want you to know. You're suffering from the lack of a lot of things. That's why you made those decisions. It's not because, oh, I should have known. How are you supposed to know better? What did you have to see in front of you? This is called repetition compulsion.
In regards to me and my husband, we basically was basically using
Trauma
each other.
bonding. And you
There you
guys
go.
are
The bond.
using each other to get your needs met. And that's why it's going to be contentious until you guys are meeting your own needs and then coming together. Because that's it's called practicing codependence, because you immediately realize that as he was meeting your needs, this is somebody you need to cling to, and he was getting his needs met, and feeling perhaps he's repeating the pattern of being the hero. Perhaps he was the hero in his family, and now he's your hero, and that's what attracts him to you, is because you see him as a hero.
And I think that's where our relationship get out of order, because by him being in prison, he's not my hero in his
Right.
life, because he's not out to protect me
Right.
from the bad people.
That would be practical.
So when we talk and I throw my bag of shit on him, it
Right.
irritates him, because what can he really do behind bars?
Right.
He can't break out and come rescue me.
Right. So what it is it's accentuating his sense of helplessness by bringing up issues that he cannot come out and cure. Do you understand? And that's where the irritation comes, because he's already helpless. He's in a disempowered place, having a very hellish experience, because I cannot imagine where prison is a walk in the park.
And he explains that to me all the time, and he feels like I don't understand that.
Well, how could you possibly understand how prison is if you've never been there to begin with? Like, yeah, I wouldn't understand. And you can admit that to him freely and unapologetically. I don't know how that is.
I don't know how I feel to be in prison. I never had to do time before.
Right. But you also didn't make those decisions.
I'm in prison. I got myself in my own in prison now. I put myself behind the bars, and I don't know how to release myself. I don't know when I'm going to get out. I don't know how long I'm sentenced to. I deal with things too, and I also just feel like my ideal marriage wasn't marrying in prison. My ideal marriage is to have my husband home with me, the comfort, the shoulder to cry on.
Yes.
That when it's my, what, you're not going to be depressed today, honey. Come on, let's get up and go somewhere. I don't feel like I don't have that motivation with him, and he probably don't have it with me. I'm not going to say that I'm just the best wife in the world, because I'm not. And I tell him this a lot. We talk about this a lot. And one minute he's very understanding about it, and the next minute we're bumping heads about it.
Mostly because anytime you're bumping heads, it's because the needs aren't being met. And because the needs aren't being met, it does cause frustration, but you also have to cut yourself some slack for that, because the reason why you got married is because something was being met at the time. There
Yeah,
was a
I
need
had my
that.
hero back. I found my hero, and that's a perfect way to put it. I never looked at it like that, but that's the perfect word for him, my hero, because that's what he was. He was my savior. Like when things happen, or when I was down, or I went through something in life, he was there to hold me. He was there to console me. He was there to talk me through it. He was there to
Who
make me
taught you how
laugh.
to, right, but who taught you how to choose the man?
No,
Like, exactly. So how are you going to hold yourself accountable to do something quote unquote perfect or accurate when you haven't had that much practice? And not only practice, but productive practice, because doing 10 years something wrong does not equal one day doing something right. So you have to give yourself, cut some slack and give yourself some credit for at least trying to get your needs met, as anyone does. We're all here trying to get our needs met. Whether we know how to do that in a healthy way or a toxic way, you've got to give yourself credit for trying to get your needs met. And he met the primal needs that were missing from your childhood. Was a hero. How could you not fall in love with a man who presented as a hero? Give yourself some credit. How liberating, though, would that be to know that the reason why you guys are butting heads is knowing that the needs are not being met? Because what you're arguing about is not the problem.
I feel like from past situations, feel I see a cycle going, a repeating cycle going over again, especially with our disagreements or our arguments, or just even the way he feel. And the one thing that I don't want to do to myself again is be hurt by a man I put too much love into, or and make sure I'm there at not every beck and call, but make sure I'm who I'm supposed to be in that relationship. My 100%. I don't believe in 50-50. I believe in
Right.
100 because I'm only giving you half of me if I'm putting 50% into me.
Well, and not only
To
that,
have all of me.
it would be a pure illustration of codependence if all you think is,
Right.
coming to the table with 50%. That's codependence. So
Right.
your instincts are serving you right as far as bringing 100% of yourself into the relationship. Um, what what I'm getting is that you robbed. There's the feeling of robbing yourself when you don't know what to expect. And through no choice or fault of your own, you did not allow yourself the full potential of what a relationship is supposed to provide. From somebody very famous, they said the man is supposed to provide the 4 P's, which is protect, provide, perform, and please. And if you knew that you are supposed to at least line up a man with that kind of standard, I don't think that you would have chose him at that moment until he was out. See,
Yeah.
that's us. This is human beings. We don't know what to expect out of this life. We didn't know that we were supposed to expect safety and advocacy and freedom and empowerment and validation, identity, intuition, and limits. We don't know that that's what we get to expect as human beings. We don't know what we're supposed to expect out of a man, and men don't know exactly what to expect out of a woman until you have
Especially
clear.
if both wasn't raised right.
Exactly.
It
So
becomes a
how could
toxic relationship.
yes,
And I
yes,
think
and
that's
there's
what we I think that's what me and my husband is. I think
yes,
we both are toxic to each other.
yes. Now there's
Even
a
though
way.
I might be his savior or his hero and he might be my hero, I feel like we both toxic. But the one thing that I will give him credit for is that he do try. I don't. Long story short, it was I didn't have no more money on the phone. I told him we were running out of money on the phone, and during that time what was more important to me was my car, which was more important to him too at the time.
Absolutely.
So my car needs to be fixed. And I told him the money was right. Like, the money's gonna be running low. If you don't hear from me by Friday, that means I didn't have enough money to put on the phone. I'll talk to you, when I get the money on the phone. So just previously before that, he had his brother text me because I was at work, so he couldn't call me.
Right.
While he was on the phone with his brother, he had his brother text me, and I just felt like what he was telling his brother to say to me was inappropriate, not to me, but I just felt like by having that third party contact, I just didn't feel like that was his brother's business.
Right.
I had that discussion with him, like, next time don't do that.
Right.
Like, it felt pretty awkward when I see your brother's name pop up on my phone and seeing something my husband's supposed to be saying to me.
Right.
Like if you was to text my phone, it would be fine. Or,
right.
I was to hear it from your own voice, your ear to, his mouth to my ear.
Right. Intimate communication.
From another person, it just didn't feel right to me. So he's like, oh, I'll never let it happen again. So now I get a text from the brother saying, oh, he want to know why there's no money on the phone when he barely calls you. Huh?
Right.
So then I said, you know what? I don't got time to deal with this because I was dealing with my own bag of shit.
But let's stop. Let's cut that thought right there. Do you see what just happened? It's blame, shame, or guilt. That's the bait. And underneath all of that is the hook of control. So that is why that's a problem. Because he's trying to bait you with guilt, blame. With guilt and blame. I don't know if you feel shame over that, but guilt and blame is showing up real strong in that situation.
I was never ashamed of it, but
so we can leave shame out of it. But guilt,
you put your brother involved. Your brother,
right?
You're telling your brother basically, I don't have any money.
Right.
Business. That's our business.
Right.
And number two, I shouldn't have to explain myself to your brother to explain to you when we already have this conversation.
Right.
So that's what.
So he's presenting to you his lack of control and the problem with the control over not having any money, because at the end,
lack of communication. Because I feel like now I was just talking to a brick wall because we just had this conversation, and I tell him all the time, I hate to keep hearing myself feel like I'm sounding like a broken record.
Right.
So if I gotta keep repeating myself, then I might as well just not talk to you at all. I don't want to keep repeating myself. It's like a repeating cycle. I don't want to do it. I'm trying to break these cycles in my own life. I don't want to make it a habit in my marriage. And I already felt like, because we are separated, this should make us stronger when you do come home.
Right. So, no.
We should have a better bond. We should have a better relationship. Shouldn't nothing be able to tear us apart because we've already been going through the worst.
Right. But see, if you're separate right now and you're having a very toxic pattern, it's even going to become,
that was my mindset. That was my thought about our marriage in the beginning. I don't think that way no more, but that's how I felt.
That was the fantasy, right?
Right. Because we were going to go through that turmoil, that midlife crisis, because he's not here. We get to relearn each other. On the phone, that puppy love.
Right.
On the phone, hey, I love you too. No, I love you too. No, you
right. That's the feeling.
Second left,
right.
Stuff like that. And it went from being that to being toxic.
Right.
And I don't like it. Then it went from him involving his brother to the next day. I'm thinking it's his brother texting me again because he still got stuff to say. I said, just tell my husband I love him, and now I'm not putting no money on the phone. I talk to him when I talk to him. I tell him I love him. I get the next day, he said he hates you too, and that's why you broke. Ha 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 ha. Now you petty and childish.
Okay.
So then I was
so that's supposed to be really endearing at this point, right? You're really supposed to cling to him now when he comes to you with that nonsense, right?
So then I text his brother. I said to his brother, I'm like, listen, stop relaying messages. I don't want to block your phone number. You didn't do nothing to me. Now this is the ticker. He said this is not him. This is his. You got your son texting me off your brother's phone now. You got your 20-year-old kid that we don't
Role Distortion.
A good bond like this. You're putting a child in adult business now.
Exactly. That's Role Distortion.
You're putting our child into this mess. Like,
right.
How dare you? I would have never
Yes.
had my children that's not by him, even my children if I did have any by him,
Thank
relay a
you.
message like that to a grown man.
That's
You
abuse.
know? So I was like, you know what? I just blocked the number. So then he called me. He ended up getting a free call or whatever. And he was like, oh, you're not going to put any money on the phone? And that's when I just, like, you know what? I just started going off. I went like 30 words per second. Like, I just started going off. And I said, I said, what you did was foul. I said, and knowing that I don't have a real good relationship with your children due to, his mom keeping them away from me a lot. Like, so we don't have a bond. You know what I'm saying? And they already grew up motherless. All they have was their
Mm.
grandmother, and then they got their father in prison. So I try to step up and be there, but his mother felt like I was overstepping my boundaries. So
Hmm.
I backed down and thought there was,
Yeah, because you're presenting to her her own issues that she needed to deal with as far as not being there herself. What is the narrative that you start feeding yourself when you're not able to meet people's needs, especially like your husband when he brings to you the mental and verbal trap as why isn't there money on the card? But yet and still what was a mystery to me is that he's able to reach out to these people in order to relay a message. So how is that possible? Why is he blaming you for the communication when he can most certainly reach out to somebody else? Why don't you put money on the phone? That's not your problem if you can't do it. Out in the outside world, there's more important things to do than talk to somebody who can't help you or do anything for himself other than sit it out.
and you want to know what made me really upset about that as well, because through it's been 6 years we've been back dealing with each other. 4 that we have been married.
Yes.
And what troubles me about that and pisses me off completely is that I made sure all the time there was always money on the phone. I even put money on his mother's phone. I put money on his brother's phone before. And vice versa, because I used to call them for him. Like, hey, babe, can you call my mom? I'm three-way calling his mother. I'm three-way calling his brother. I'm three-way calling his friends. And then people that didn't even never put money on my phone. And just like me learning the word no, I started with my husband. And that's when I was like, you know what, it just don't work. Because he'll get mad. Like, why you can't call this person? Why this person can't put money on their own phone? If I can
Right.
pick up the phone and learn how to dial a number to put money on the phone, why can't them? And I
That's
always have to
right.
tell them stuff like that. Or like, oh, explain to such and such how to set up the account. Why do I gotta explain it to such and such how to set up an account when nobody explained it to me?
That
Like,
part.
and then it was like, oh,
That
why you
part.
gotta be so petty? Why you gotta be so selfish?
Oh, see,
No,
then now, do
yeah,
you understand right there what just happened?
he
That's a
flipped it.
violation of your identity
Yeah,
because
he
now
tried to
he's
take.
trying to shame you and he's trying to guilt you into being something other than what you are. That word petty, that's a violation of your identity because we all know you're not petty. But see, those words are meant to manipulate you and start bending you to his will. And so a part of you is reaching for that bait. A part of you is falling for it. So it's like anytime, it's almost like if you get a compliment from anybody else from your man, it's basically presenting to you that your man didn't do it. He's not the one that gave you that compliment
Right.
first because you got it from a stranger. And that's the same kind of pathology with his mother. Is like you stepping in is a front on her because she's feeling guilty for not doing that herself. And people get real defensive over their guilt.
Yeah, and
You
I always,
understand?
yeah, I kind of felt that way. But I just
Absolutely.
told him until he learned how to treat me as his wife instead of a side chick, girlfriend, whatever you want to call the girls used to mess with back in the day. Like, I have a title. We made vows to God. You know what I'm saying? Where's my respect that you're supposed to give me? So until you learn how to be a husband and treat me as a wife, then I don't have nothing to say to him. Like, and he been trying, but I just feel like I call it apologize. I feel like you could apologize today and then it's a lie tomorrow. I don't accept them.
Yes. That's
And
true.
he's like, "You not going to accept my?" No, why not? When you're going to do it again.
Right.
And if I keep accepting that, I mean I'm allowing you to do it. So I'm not accepting your apology because I don't want you to do it. Something's
You
going to
have,
have to change. It is not me that have to change you. It's going to have to be you that want to change.
that is true. I love your
So,
instincts. Like you have a lot of good, I hear a lot of healthy instincts that you
yeah.
have as far as, trying to curb this abuse pattern. Um, I love that about you because you know what is ultimately what's healthy and what's toxic. It's just
Right.
that the narrative when somebody, I call it entrapment, because any time somebody's trying to make you feel guilty for how you've been handling your business, it's almost a mental and a verbal trap. And the trap is in the form of guilt. And so your guilt right now is even though you have good instincts, you're battling your guilt right now.
Yeah.
And so we've got to unwind that. That goes, guilt
That's
is
what I
how
need
you,
to figure out.
yeah.
How. I feel like
Well,
once that's done, I will be in such a better place mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. You
yeah.
know that I can move forward in my life and be the happy person that I see this vision of me being happy. But reality is that I'm not there,
You
and I
can't
don't know
shake
where
the
to start.
guilt.
Yeah,
And so
I can't give a man my all anymore. I've been hurt
you're
too
not
much,
supposed to.
and especially until I see their all is given to me. I
Well,
don't feel like I
no.
have to put forth effort. I mean, that's just my thought theory because I did so much in a relationship to show
Right.
that I was
As
worthy
a
of something,
trauma, yeah,
and I
trauma-based
still was
victim.
beat. I still was verbally, mentally, physically abused, sexually abused. You know, I still went through all that in a relationship, and it's a hard pill to swallow to try to redo it all over again. I was never really over the hurt and the past that I already had went through. Even though I moved from it, I never really let go of it. He never called me out my name. You know, he never been really disrespectful. But the way he
Well,
just
actually,
talks
he
sounds
is.
disrespectful. No,
You
it is,
know,
but I mean disrespectful to the point that I felt like, he never called me bitch or
but see, you're
said
you're
anything like
you're
that.
reaching
But
for. Let me stop you right there because you keep on reaching for all these overt forms of abuse, like you know,
well, abuse
not
is abuse.
calling you
I
a
know that.
bitch,
Yeah,
or oh, he never. Well, what can he do from jail? Like at the same time, he is violent. Abuse is calling you petty, blaming you for hitting him when he's the one hitting himself. He beats himself up and then blames you. That is abuse.
right,
That
right.
is abuse. And so you, at this point, it is a challenge for you that I'm going to present. I would like to challenge you to unwind the guilt by letting his problem be his. Do not
I
fall for
do.
those words.
I don't
His
think it's
physical
okay.
presence is very necessary in order for him to perform his duties. And
Yes,
so, how dare he mention and bring up the fact that you're not putting him first when he can't even perform for you? He cannot even provide for you. He can't even protect you right now. Do you see how oppressive that is? That's
right.
not your fault. But
And
see,
I explain that to him all the time because he doesn't just do that with me. He does that with his mom. He does that with his brother. He does that with his associates, his friends, people that when he was home, he was everybody's hero. He was doing everything. He was doing the same thing I was doing, and then more. So he felt like now that he's gone, I always tell him out of sight, out of mind. You're out. You're not in their sight, so you're out their mind. That mean they don't think about you from time to time. Not only that they don't care about you, they just dealing with their own things. You're the least of their worries at the
absolutely.
moment, and you
Absolutely.
have to realize that.
Right.
He gets so frustrated because he always looks for, if somebody say they're gonna do something for him and then they don't, it's aggravating him. Now he has an attitude. He
Yes.
ready to go off. So now
That's
I'm
called
calling him
rewounding
for him to
himself.
cuss him out. Why you said you were gonna do? And that's when I keep telling him, like, I'm not. That's why I don't do it. I'm not doing it. Nope, I'm not
Well,
following
do you know that
it. Nope.
that's a form of rewounding yourself when you
Yeah.
get very caught up on what somebody said that they're going to do for you, when you need to be worried about showing up for yourself?
I've been promised so much stuff in my whole entire life, or nobody kept their word. If my children ask me for something, I say I'll think about it. I'll see if I can do it. Don't hold your breath, and I'm not making any promises. And I tell my husband the same thing. You
It's
cannot
what
dwell on
the
nobody's promise because it's meant to be broken. That's why.
well, promises are not meant to be broken, but you can
Uh,
certainly you can give answers that are much more easier on yourself than to be held down. It's almost like a form of self-punishment to even say that you could do something that doesn't seem so likely. So when people say, "Oh, can you do this for me?" You can say, "Well, if I can, I will. And if not, then I'll give you an ample amount of time to know that it won't be possible for me." Because at the things that must be done will be done. And, people love to ask things of other people, and it might not be meant for you to provide. But if it's something that you'd like to do, it'll happen. And if not, then, be on alert that you might have to ask somebody else or do it for yourself, and that's okay.
right.
You understand? Because that's almost trapping yourself down to something. It's like, how can they ask you to make a promise to them when you keep on breaking the promises to yourself? They're asking you for something you can't even provide. It's like, how do you get water when there's no water in the well?
Right.
You understand? So you have to go
Yeah.
easy on yourself and realize that I have my own promises that I need to make before I can make a promise to anybody else. And right now, you're coming up short on the promises that you need to make to yourself. That's it. Just coming up short. You're not failing. It's just that we need to work on putting you first.
Right.
You need to rework the narrative that goes around putting you first. A lot of needs are not being met, and quite naturally, because there's a separation in between you.
No, and we
He's
both suffer from abandonment issues. So,
right. How you
yeah.
clean up abandonment is self-acceptance, not somebody else's acceptance, accepting yourself and accepting things that you cannot change. That's how you clean up abandonment. Because as long as you've got you, no matter what people do or where they go or where they don't go, has nothing to do with you having you. You're always going to have you. You're always going to be there for that, your inner child. You're going to
Yeah.
be okay. And we've been taught to be dependent. See, and that's what I call it's a dry addiction, because now we're stuck on getting our needs met. That's a dry addiction when you're stuck in that model of getting your needs met, and then it's the manipulation, anger, and then remorse. Manipulation, anger, and remorse. And so and all centered around getting your needs met. And as soon as you start fulfilling your own needs and knowing that as you fulfill your own needs, it's just as valid and more credible than trying to get them met by somebody else, then you get to start cleaning up, needing somebody to be your hero, needing somebody to provide this and do that when they're unavailable. Because as of right now, you've been taught that it's safer to have an unavailable man than one that would, abuse you in any number of ways. You can handle that. It's much easier to handle somebody who you can handle with the long-handled spoon than somebody
I
who,
think I have an unavailable man because I have an unavailable father.